Oh my goodness. Spirit, I was not ready for this one. I need you to stop everything right now because what came through for Virgo today arrived with an energy I genuinely was not expecting when I sat down to open this reading. Like I shuffled my cards, and before I had even settled into the vibration fully, something landed that made me put everything down and just sit with it for a moment. Because what Spirit is showing me about your love story, about who is in it and what is unfolding, and why it qualifies as the craziest, most unexpected, most nobody would believe this if you told them love story, is the kind of thing that makes you question everything you thought you knew about how love actually works. And it involves you completely. You are not the supporting character in this story. You are not the person to whom this extraordinary thing is happening as a side note. You are the center of it, the reason it exists. The specific, irreplaceable, could not have happened with anyone else reason that this particular love story is the one being told. Who is this person? That is the question Spirit wants to answer for you today. And the answer is going to change how you understand everything that has been happening around you recently. Stay with me, because this is one of those readings where I need you present for every single word. Let me begin with what hit me first when I opened this energy, because the very first impression tells you something about the nature of what we are dealing with. It was unexpectedness. This specific, almost disorienting quality of something that arrived in a way that nobody scripted, that did not follow the expected narrative of how love is supposed to develop, that did not respect the usual timeline or the usual sequence or the usual logic of how two people find their way to each other and decide that finding was worth holding on to. This love story broke the rules. And I mean that in the most specific, most real sense. The rules of timing, the rules of circumstance, the rules of what makes sense on paper when you look at two people's lives from the outside and try to predict whether what is between them should work. None of the rules apply here. And that is exactly what makes this the craziest love story. Not crazy in the chaotic, unstable sense. Crazy in the this should not have happened the way it happened and yet here we are sense. The kind of crazy that, looking back from a future point when the full arc of the story is visible, produces the specific wonder of something that feels both improbable and inevitable simultaneously. I want to speak to who this person is because their energy is coming through with extraordinary clarity, and I want to describe it as accurately as what I am feeling allows. This is not who you expected. That is the first and most essential thing I can tell you about them. Whatever image you have been carrying in your mind of the person who would be the love story of your life, whatever shape you had unconsciously given to the idea of someone who would match what you carry at the depth you carry it, this person does not fit that image in all the obvious ways. They fit it in a deeper way, in the way that actually matters. In the specific interior, who are you when nobody is watching way, rather than in the obvious surface, this is what I was expecting way, and the mismatch between your expectation and their reality is part of what makes this story crazy, because you would not have chosen them if you were choosing based on the external picture. Something had to happen to get past the expectation. Something had to create enough proximity, enough genuine encounter, enough of the real interior of both of you meeting the real interior of the other to produce the recognition that the external picture had been obscuring, that something happened and the recognition arrived. And now you are both standing in a story that neither of you fully wrote and that both of you feel very clearly is real. I need to pause here because Spirit is giving me something very specific about how this person thinks about you, and I want to receive it carefully. I am being shown wonder. The specific, slightly helpless quality of wonder that belongs to someone who keeps encountering something they cannot fully explain and has stopped trying to explain it and has simply allowed themselves to be in the wonder of it. They wonder about you, about how you came to be who you are, about the specific combination of experiences and choices and character that produce the person they are encountering, about how it is possible that someone exists with this particular combination of qualities, your depth and your warmth and your precision and your capacity for genuine loyalty and your extraordinary mind in a single person. They find you almost unbelievable in the best possible sense, like something they might have constructed if asked to describe a person who would actually reach the full depth of who they are and then been shocked to encounter in actual reality. You are the person they did not know was possible until they met you. And the realization that you are real, that you actually exist and are actually in their life, is something they have not fully gotten over and do not want to get over, because the wonder of it is one of the best things they have ever felt. I want to speak to the crazy of this love story more specifically now, because I feel several distinct dimensions of it and I want to walk through each. The first dimension of crazy is the timing. When this came together, the specific moment in both of your lives when this connection activated should not have been the right moment by any conventional measure. One or both of you was in a transition, in the middle of something, not by ordinary logic in the ideal position to begin something significant with another person. And yet, the timing that should have made this impossible actually made it inevitable. Because what you were both moving through when this began created the specific conditions for encountering each other without the usual filters and performances and protective presentations that people typically maintain. You met each other in a version of yourselves that was more honest than what usually gets offered in the early stages of connection, more real, more unguarded. And real meeting real, without the usual protective layers, produces something that begins at a depth that most connections take years to reach. That is the crazy of the timing. It should not have worked. And because it should not have worked, it worked better than anything deliberately planned would have. The second dimension of crazy is the distance. Physical, circumstantial, logistical distance that when someone first looked at the picture of this connection from the outside would have produced the reasonable conclusion that this is not practical. That the gap between your lives in whatever external sense is too significant to bridge in any sustainable way. And yet the distance has not functioned as a barrier. It has functioned as something else entirely, as a kind of test perhaps, as a filter, as the specific thing that required both of you to choose this intentionally and repeatedly, rather than simply falling into something convenient. And the choosing, the sustained, against the odds choosing that the distance has required, has created something between you that convenience could never have created. When two people choose something difficult over and over because it is real and because they cannot imagine not choosing it, what they build is something that has been tested, that has earned its own existence through the repeated decision to prioritize it. That cannot be casually undermined because its foundation was not casualness. The distance is part of what makes this story crazy, and the choosing across the distance is part of what makes it real. Does this feel like it is resonating with something in your actual experience, Virgo? Does the combination of unexpected timing and circumstantial obstacles and the specific quality of someone who sees you in a way that produces wonder feel like something you have been living? Let me know in the comments. Tell me what your version of the crazy love story looks like. The third dimension of crazy is the most personal, and it is the one that I feel Spirit is most insistent about delivering clearly. Neither of you planned this. I know that sounds simple, but it is the heart of what makes this story the craziest love story. Because both of you, at the point when this connection began, had a picture of what your life was going to look like. A reasonable, coherent, based on your actual experience picture of the direction things were heading and the kind of connections that were available to you and what the next chapter was going to contain. And then this happened. And the picture was disrupted, not violently, but completely, in the way that genuine, unexpected love disrupts a picture, not by destroying it, but by revealing that it was incomplete, that there was a dimension it had not accounted for, that a person it had not included who was going to change everything about what the picture was pointing toward. You disrupted each other's pictures, mutually, equally. Neither of you saw this coming. Neither of you wrote this into the plan. And both of you are now standing in something that the plan never anticipated, and that now that it is real, neither of you can imagine having proceeded without. That is the crazy. And that is the love. Inhale with me, Virgo. I want to speak to something about what this love story is asking of you. Because the craziest love stories are not simply given, they require something. They ask for a willingness to stay in something that defies conventional logic, to keep choosing something that the rational mind can always find good arguments against, to trust what you feel over what you can easily explain or justify. This connection has been asking this of you, and the way you have responded to what it has asked is itself part of why the story is what it is. Because the version of you that has continued to show up for this, continued to choose it, continued to be present in it despite whatever the external obstacles have been, is a version of you that has demonstrated something significant about who you are. You do not abandon real things because they are inconvenient. You do not choose the easier option when the real option is available, even if the real option is harder. That quality in you, that specific faithfulness to what is genuine over what is comfortable, is part of what has made this story possible. And this person sees it. They see the choice you have been making, and it moves them. I want to speak to what comes next in this story, because the narrative is not finished, and I feel very specifically where it is heading. Something is resolving. The specific quality of unresolved that has perhaps characterized this connection, the sense of something real and significant existing between you without yet having found its full and final form, is approaching its resolution. The story is moving toward a chapter where the obstacles that have made it crazy begin to yield, where the timing that was supposed to be wrong begins to reveal itself as exactly right, where the distance that seemed insurmountable closes in a way that creates the conditions for what exists between you to finally, fully be what it actually is. For some of you, this resolution involves a specific decision being made by this person or by both of you together, a commitment to something that removes the ambiguity and the unresolved quality and creates a foundation that both of you can actually stand on fully. For others, the resolution is more circumstantial. Something in the external landscape of your connection, one of the obstacles that has been making this crazy, changing in a way that creates new possibilities. A logistical thing shifting, a timing thing aligning, something that was in the way simply moving. And for some of you, the resolution is the conversation, the direct, fully honest, we are both saying the real thing conversation that names what this is and what it means and where it is going, without the careful management or the protective hedging that has perhaps kept it slightly in the territory of the undefined. Let me speak to what this love story ultimately means, because I feel Spirit wants to leave you with the larger context of what you are standing in. The craziest love stories are not crazy in spite of being meaningful. They are meaningful because they are crazy. Because the obstacles and the timing and the unexpectedness and the nothing about this was planned quality of them is exactly what strips away everything that is not essential and leaves only what is real. What is real between you and this person has been stripped of everything inessential by the specific obstacles this connection has had to navigate. And what remains after everything inessential has been stripped away is something that has a quality of pure that most love stories never reach. Because most love stories do not go through what yours has gone through to become itself. You have a love story that has been tested, that has had to prove itself, that has had to choose itself over and over against the evidence of why it should not work. And every time it chose itself, every time both of you continued to show up for something that the logical mind could always find a reason to walk away from, it became more itself, more real, more rooted in something that cannot be easily undermined because it has already survived the things that were supposed to undermine it. That is what you have, Virgo. Not just a crazy love story, a love story that has been forged, that has the specific, particular, hard-won quality of something that earned its own existence through everything it survived to become what it is. As I bring this reading toward its close, I want to leave you with the thing that Spirit brought through with the most insistence throughout this entire message. You did not stumble into an ordinary story. You are in the middle of something extraordinary. Something that the people around you, the ones who have been watching this unfold, who have seen the obstacles and the unexpectedness and the against all odds quality of it, are going to look back on and say, I witnessed that. That was the real thing. Because it is the real thing in every sense of that phrase. Real in the depth of it. Real in the choosing of it. Real in the specific, particular, not transferable to anyone else quality of what exists between you and this person who appeared in your life in a way that makes no conventional sense and who has become one of the most significant presences in your experience. Who is this person? They are the one who appeared when the script said nobody should have appeared, who stayed when the circumstances said staying was unreasonable, who sees you in the specific, clear, I know exactly what I am looking at way that changes how you understand what it means to be seen. They are the person your craziest love story was always building toward, and you are in the middle of that story right now. If this reading moved something in you today, please share it with a Virgo who needs to feel this energy, and leave me a comment below. Tell me how this landed. Tell me what your version of the crazy love story looks like. Tell me who came to mind the moment I started speaking. I read every single word you share. Every story matters to me deeply, and I carry your energy with genuine care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo, you are in the craziest love story, and it is only getting better from here.